The Four Smoothers Podcast with Brad and Dad.
What's up?
Hi.
Hi.
Are you sleepy? You sleepy?
No, I had a wake up call about 15 minutes ago that got me up and moving.
Oh.
I heard my phone ringing and I was looking at it. I was like, Kevin, what's Kevin calling me for? Saw the time and I was like, oh.
You know what though? Once we get through this, I promise I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna tuck you in. Okay?
You better.
I am.
Better.
I'm gonna tuck you in nice and tight. I'm gonna get you a binky, a baba, the whole nine. The whole nine.
Actually reminds me. Let me change my name real quick. I just realized that I still had it like that.
Dadford. No, keep it. Keep it.
Dadford.
It is accurate. It's accurate. It's not like you're lying. You are a dad. You are in fact a dad.
I am.
Oh my God, that's what I need to get you for your next birthday. No, for Christmas. For Christmas, I'm gonna get you like the slickest pair of New Balance shoes. Like the slickest pair. I'm gonna get no. I'm going further. I'm gonna get you some jorts. I'm gonna get you some jorts, right? But they're gonna be the jorts that have like the little hammer hook in it, like the little thing that you're supposed to put a hammer in. That nobody who ever wore New Balance and jorts ever put a hammer in. I'm gonna get you one of those. I'm gonna get you a pair of those, and you are going to. I'm gonna take you to someone's cookout. Not even like anyone we know. I'm just gonna drop you at a random cookout, and you're gonna walk around in your spiffy, awesome New Balances and your jorts, and you're gonna talk to random people about the weather, and you're gonna have to end every sentence. Well, it's a good thing we needed the rain, like that. For Christmas, I'm gonna let you go like the Optimus Prime of dad mode.
Okay, first of all, I used to wear jorts unironically.
We all did. We were all alive in the 90s.
I know. And I've used a hammer hook thing or a hammer, that before.
For a hammer?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's right. I often forget that you actually know how to operate tools.
I helped build my in-laws' house. Thank you very much.
See, yeah, I often forget that you're actually handy and I'm useless. Like, I understand tools in principle. Like, I can identify tools. You know, I can't use them to save my life, but I know what I'm looking at mostly, kind of. I often just refer to, the standard, that doohickey.
I'm just going to go open up my toolbox one of these streams, and I'm going to bring up all the types of wrenches I have, and I want you to identify all the different wrenches.
I'm just going to call all of them crescent wrenches.
I know you
That's what I'm going to do. All of them are crescent wrenches.
There's also adjustable wrenches and monkey wrenches.
No, it's all a crescent wrench.
Channel locks.
Nah, it's a crescent wrench.
Vice grips.
I have seen vice grips. So I know vice grips, and I only know vice grips because
the ones for your nipples don't count.
Those are my personal business, and I'm sorry if I need the pain to, get there. That's
okay.
That's
is that what it is?
Jesus. Yeah, that's between me and Jesus.
That's between you and Jesus. Okay.
That's between me, my wife, and Jesus. What we do in the bedroom, including taking the vice grips and getting a whole handful of pubic hair and just ripping that out of there, that's between us, okay?
Why is that where you went?
That's none of your business. Why are you bringing this up on the stream? We're 4 minutes in and you already got us demonetized. Congratulations.
No, you got us demonetized on that one.
I don't care.
You know what? I'm going to bleep out that entire section.
Why? Why are you keeping my wing trying to soar?
It's going to be in the audio only version because, this is live. But in the audio only version, there's just going to be a long bleep.
I am not playing YouTube's game, okay?
It's not YouTube's game. It's just for the comedy of it. I feel like that whole section would be funnier bleeped out than actually listenable.
Oh, if you think that's the tip of the iceberg, buddy, buckle up, okay?
I've been to the rest of the iceberg with you. I know.
No. I am speaking specifically about tonight. Like tonight, I am feeling like I'm in rare form. So, yeah, get ready. What a weird couple of weeks, though. Like, What is even happening?
Texas has decided to pee slap me with 115-degree weather. That's what's fucking happened.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was great.
Multiple days. Yeah,
It was
awesome.
awesome. It was so great. Fun fact about our illustrious mayor. What? Governor. Our mayor is actually okay. Our mayor here is okay. But our governor signed into law a bill that ended mandatory water breaks for workers that work outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I want us to take a second to let that really sink in, shall we? Okay, you just remarked we had excessive heat advisories every day but one last week. Every
Was
day
it all
but
but one?
Yes, there was. It was like what, Thursday? I think it was. Thursday wasn't so bad.
Oh.
But Monday through Wednesday, Friday, excessive heat warnings, and this the names
Word he
are
cannot say.
This guy signed into law a bill that ended mandatory water breaks. So if you're working outside, you cannot say I have to have my mandatory 10-minute water break. Oh my God. And then this is on top of these dirtbags asking us unironically with their whole chest to turn our thermostats to 83 degrees at night. Anyone care to know what the temperature is currently while we're doing this?
91.
Yeah. And it's nighttime. And they want us to turn our thermostats up to 83. Let me ask you this. This is the popular thing that everyone likes to ask. What's the governor's mansion's thermostat at? I don't care. We know that Greg Abbott is slipping and sliding on ice blocks in there. Okay, we know. I want to know what the thermostats for the board of ERCOT are. Each individual one of those guys' houses. Mind you, if you are not aware, Texas's power grid is privately owned because our grandparents and our parents thought that would be rad. So yeah, I want to know what the board's thermostats are set at. Like, and they live in the McMansion, so they've got more than one air compressor unit on that thing. I just want to know. I want to know. And then I'd like to salt the earth where those McMansions once stood. When I say eat the rich, I'm serious. We all died in the yellow submarine.
And the next words out of my mouth were gonna be freaking and 3 of them just decided to vacuum seal themselves too.
5
of them. Whatever.
5.
Well, was the pilot a millionaire? Billionaire.
He was the CEO of the company, which is the most delicious.
Wait, he was
part.
the pilot?
Yes.
I thought he was the CEO. I thought he was the guide.
No, because that was my initial concern. I was like, okay, dude, is there an employee on that thing who was just a paid employee to pilot that thing down? And did he get like, no, it was the CEO who was piloting it. And you know what? You reap what you sow. This guy was literally bragging about his carbon fiber submarine. And saying like, basically what he's saying is like, rules are meant to be broken, brah. And then, yeah, fish food.
All the knocking we heard was the orcas sitting there.
Oh my God, that was my
forks
favorite,
and
dude.
spoons just banging on there.
Man, anti-capitalist orca death squad. I'm telling you, like I don't know if you're about to get like a full-on tangent here, but I don't know if I've gone into depth about like my passion for killer whales ever since I was just a wee lad. But
was it when? Wait! Hold on. Was it when you saw was it National Geographic or like something Earth video in science class of the orca whales flinging seals through the air?
No.
That's when that's when I fell in love with the whales.
No, Free Willy. Free Willy was my jam. Okay, my jam. So that was my first foray. But I was also a kid that like once I still do this. If I find something I'm interested in, I am diving like 90 feet down into all of the information that I can find. So even when I was a kid in school, you could always find me in the library looking up books on orcas and learning.
Me and Kevin, you'll find, are 2 individuals that have problems with hyperfixations.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. I am because of it. No, because of it. Like because of it. If you're hanging out with me in a social situation and I'm being very quiet and reserved, as I often am, if you say the right thing, if you bring up the right topic, you have no idea the floodgate you just opened. Like I will pummel you with all of the useless, minute facts that I'm carrying around in there. So how this relates to orcas, right? We are not likely. Well, it is arrogant to think that we are the only sentient species on this planet. Orcas have all of the hallmarks of a sentient creature. We don't know if they're attacks on the boats. We don't know if they're attacks. We're calling it attacks because we're anthropomorphizing. But these things are coordinatedly going after boat propellers, and they're just messing the props up. Now, this could be a fad, right? Fads have been observed in orcas before. This could be just a passing thing. But these things are thinking creatures. They are thinking, feeling, sentient creatures. There is a reason they are going after these boats, and I don't care what it is. I'm here for it. Because you know what it makes me think of? That episode of The Simpsons where the dolphins rose up and it's like, Snorky, speak, man. He's like, excuse me, right? It reminds me of that. We are in the middle of the orca uprising. And you know what? Unlike that pussy little Wagner group, the orcas will get it done. They'll see it through. They're not going to cut some deal and be like, oh, man, coup over. No, they're coming. They're coming for all of us.
Didn't Putin leave the country?
No. Or at least,
didn't.
There's no way to know. There's no way to know. They did fortify Moscow to hell and back, but they stopped short because I shouldn't say president of Belarus. This guy is a full-on dictator, Lukashenko. He brokered a deal, and basically Prigozhin, the scumbag Wagner Group guy, is going to go to Belarus and he's going to stay there. No one in the Wagner Group who marched on or took that city in Russia is going to be tried or anything like that. It's basically just like, hey guys, it didn't happen. That didn't happen. Because as far as international black eyes, that wasn't an international black eye on Putin. That was an international upper decker. Like this guy just got schooled. Not only that, he got schooled. This is after failing to completely take Ukraine with what should have been one of the best militaries in the world. And you've just been getting spanked, right? In fact, it's the Wagner Group who's had the most success in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what a weird world we live in right now. What a weird world we live in.
Oh yeah.
It's surreal. It's surreal. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. I have to catch myself so many times.
You already threw it. Yeah. No, you've already
because everyone knows my favorite 4-letter word that is like noun, verb, adjective, and it's the most versatile word in my vocabulary. And I catch myself wanting it to it's right there. It's like, and I have to nope, you get back in there. Because I'm trying to tone it down. Anyway, we're here to actually talk about Rings of Power.
You just have to tone it down enough to where we're not age restricted. That's the fucking problem.
I don't care.
We don't have to make videos for children. We just can't be age restricted.
No, again, you know what? Here's why I don't want kids watching our show. And it's not just because of the language, because I'm not ignorant enough to think that these kids are never exposed to that language, okay? Piss off. It's that, one of the biggest downsides of this racket we're in is we hyper analyze things because we're adults. What we're kind of hardwired to do as you mature, you start to hyper analyze things, and we apply that hyper analysis to everything that we purportedly love, and then we put it out there, right? But kids do watch this stuff, and they take that in. So instead of sitting back and watching a thing and just enjoying it, they're almost predisposed to do the same level of, not the same level, but a similar level of hyper analysis. And I'll give you an example. I was talking to my wife's nephew. He's 7, right? Mm-hmm. And I was asking him what shows he watched. And I asked him, do you watch Power Rangers? Just to see, are you a Power Ranger kid? And this is what this kid hit me with. 7 years old. He's like, I tried, but the editing was a little meh. Yeah, dude. Yes.
At 7?
At 7, right? So I had to wrestle with one of two possibilities that why this came out of this kid's mouth. Either possibility 1, he's just that sharp, and that's just how his brain works, and he's clued in, and he's thinking like that because you know what?
Good for him.
Geniuses exist, right? You know. Or number two, I know this kid lives on YouTube. I know he lives on YouTube. So is it a possibility that he's consuming media, not unlike what we're doing here, that is hyper analytical and talks about stuff like that? And that's just his impression and how again, all that to say, I don't want kids watching this show. If you want to go watch a thing, go watch something that's meant to inspire you and entertain you. You know, like we didn't have this when we were kids. No one, well, if I had friends at that age, the discussion group around Power Rangers was not about the costumes or the editing. Okay. Like that was not what the center of conversation was. So yeah, no, kids, hit the bricks, go pound sand.
You should go watch something inspiring like Rings of Power.
You're damn right. You're damn right. Like, look, this show was a creeper for me. Like,
really?
I loved it from the, let me explain. Because I loved it from the jump, right? And you can attest to that. There was a whole period of time where I was an insufferable cuss because that's all I would talk about.
Yes.
So I loved it from the jump. But it wasn't until I gave it some space and then viewed it again that I began to adore it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because leading up to it, knowing that it was going to be made, there was apprehension for me because it's new. It's new. You have no idea what to expect. Like, say, for example, if Amazon said, hey, we got Peter Jackson to do this, right? If they said that way back when they announced it, it's like, we got Peter Jackson, PJ's coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would know what to expect because we have 6 films of his style of the world he built. It would look fairly familiar. Like, obviously it's Second Age, so he would do some different stuff, but it would look fairly familiar.
Yeah.
This was totally new. Showrunners that we didn't know about, writers that we didn't know about, directors we didn't know about, built from scratch. The only thing that was familiar was that for season 1, they were filming it in New Zealand, right? Yeah. And then they had some of the same illustrators from the films come on. I think it was Alan or John Howe or Alan. I can't remember their names, but they're amazing illustrators. So there was trepidation going into it. And I mean, from the jump, from episode 1, from the prologue, I mean, it was like, okay, no, I can breathe. I can relax. Because from the jump, it felt like Middle Earth.
Yeah. It was a much more nittier and grittier Middle Earth. Like everything is much more, I don't want to say like everything's much more, I don't want to say primal, but like everything's much more, like it's very much more almost savage because like,
yeah,
you know, you don't have the formation of certain parties. Everything is still kind of like trying to take shape into the Lord of the Rings that we all knew.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a whole different age.
Well,
it's a totally separate age, you know. And you're right. There's definitely parts of it. The savage is a good word because I think of that word comes to mind when I think of the orcs, like how they designed the orcs for this period of Middle Earth, this period of time, because they're kind of scattered.
But I mean, like you what was it? The opening after the prologue, the opening was literally Galadriel and a bunch of elven soldiers, like all fully decked out in armor, climbing an ice wall.
Yeah, they were climbing in forward ways. Yeah.
I mean, it was very much like. It felt like it was more of like that early wartime that it was.
Yes. Well, I mean, the prologue.
I guess late wartime. It's
way back in time. I mean,
yeah.
The prologue does so much heavy lifting, because, I mean, from the fact that like you get to see Valinor, so it establishes the West, the uttermost West. It establishes Galadriel. Finrod friggin' Felagund. That's her brother.
Finrod friggin' Felagund. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Finrod Felagund. Yeah. That's
yeah.
her brother. And
I knew that wasn't a middle name.
Oh no, and I'm gonna warn you right now. If you remember the Halo show, how you just like went like full on into lore mode.
Yeah. Well, I know that's
It's my turn.
no, I know. That's why we were talking about getting Justice on.
So you establish that relationship between Galadriel and Finrod, and it
Mhm.
and then it gives you the two trees.
How turgid were you when you saw that his body was torn up like it was werewolves?
Okay, yeah, no. Okay. This dovetails into something that I'm going to get to in a minute, right? This
Okay.
does. Because there's a small yes, when Galadriel's looking over the body of her brother Finrod, he is covered in claw wounds, right? Like the focus is on Sauron's brand, right? That's the focus. But he's covered in claw wounds, right? Finrod died at Tower and Gowroth, the Isle of Werewolves, Sauron's island. Okay? He was in a dungeon with none other than Beren, because Finrod died helping Beren in his quest to, take a Silmaril off the crown of Morgoth. He was killed by Sauron's wolves, right? Claw marks all over his body. So when this is the thing, when people say that this show didn't respect the lore, when you say that, I call bullshit. I call bullshit because this show is littered with little details like that. Like absolutely littered with little details like that, right? They didn't have to do that. You didn't have to include the claw marks to signify to tease or not tease, but to hint at like how he died, right? And they're doing this while being restricted to very specific texts, right? Because mind you, they didn't have access to the Silmarillion. No one does, right? No one making films has access to that. So yes, to go back to your first question, how turgid was I? It was a rubbery one of magnanimous proportions. Like the first viewing of this show was quite messy. And then on top of that, you got the two trees, Telperion and Lordaeron, and you see the shadow of Morgoth. Like I love how much they name drop Morgoth in there, because you know how many times you hear Morgoth in the Lord of the Rings?
When they're talking about the Balrog.
Yeah, once.
I think that's it. Just they call it the Balrog of Morgoth. That's it.
What? Yeah, that's it. And do you know why they can reference that?
Because the Balrogs were never loyal to Sauron. It was just Morgoth, right?
Right. But the reason they can name drop Morgoth in this without having access to the Silmarillion, this is a fun fact, right?
Okay.
Because when Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings, right, all he wanted to write was the Silmarillion. That was the one thing he wanted to work on. That was where most of his creative energy was going. He wanted to work on the Silmarillion. The only reason, well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons he wrote The Lord of the Rings is because his friggin' publishers were like, we need more hobbits. John Ronald Rule, we need more hobbits. The people want hobbits. And he finally acquiesced. But when he wrote The Lord of the Rings, it is, if you read the books, it is littered with references to the First Age and the Second Age and the Silmarillion. It's littered with it because
it's the history.
And that's what he wanted to write. He wanted to write the Silmarillion. So of course some of that stuff bled into the Lord of the Rings while he was writing it.
Well, yeah. Right? I mean, that just makes sense. It's world building.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what makes sense.
Exactly. So the prologue does all that heavy lifting of establishing basically what happens in the First Age without being very specific.
Yeah.
Right?
Because Galadriel really doesn't drop very many names. All she says, she names the two trees, doesn't she? And
No, they never named the trees.
No. So then she just talks about a home or she talks about a home, and then she talks about a shadow coming.
Yeah, I mean she can name drop Morgoth, she can call it Valinor. Yeah. She can name drop all of that. But
I just remember she was pretty vague about it.
Oh yeah. Because you remember in the prologue there's that sequence of a battle where you see dragons and eagles and stuff, right?
Yeah, you were talking about it being like the Flaming War?
No,
War of Flame.
No, well,
Oh,
good swing. Good swing. I
tried.
give you credit. I thought it could be the Battle of Sudden Flame.
Ah.
Yeah. But it also could be the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, right? It's vague. It doesn't tell you much. It's probably it is more than likely the Battle of Sudden Flame. Because Finrod is there, and Finrod was at the Battle of Sudden Flame. But like, I mean, without being able to directly reference it, without Galadriel being able to narrate and like, and here's the Battle of Sudden Flame, like they were still able to put this stuff in there, right? All leading to that, what you referenced earlier, that gorgeous opening shot of them climbing the ice wall in Forwardwaith and looking for one of Sauron's strongholds.
Hideouts. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that again, from the jump, I was immediately like relieved because it felt like Middle Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was literally the only bar this show had to clear for me, right? I was, and I don't mean that as like I'm that easy to please. I am, but I mean that in the sense that it just had to feel like it, because I was trusting of the vision, right? Like, you're a creative person, you're doing an adaptation. Show me the adaptation. Show me what you're working with, but just make it feel like Middle Earth. It doesn't need to look like something I've seen before, you know, because when I think about realistically, it's the Second Age. It's thousands of years before the events of Lord of the Rings. Yeah. It doesn't need to look the same, but it's got to feel like Middle Earth. And it does. It does from the jump.
I feel like, you know, for me, it's like a lot of the opening sequences were like the high society of the elves and everything. I mean, yeah, that pretty much felt like what I would imagine like the elves being like in the heyday of their kingdom and everything on Middle Earth. Honestly though, like nostalgia didn't hit me until we went to the Hobbits.
Oh, the Harfoots?
Or sorry, the Hardfoots.
The Harfoots, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Harfoots gave me some of the most like heartfelt scenes out of the entire series.
Well, yeah, they're simple.
And
folk.
also the one scene that I cannot watch. I have to look away every time. When Nori's dad breaks his ankle. No.
Oh, and you see
I can't watch it, dude. I can't. It's just, I don't know.
Oh, it's that fear you have of being a lifter.
Yeah, that's probably it, dude.
Because you're just so dreading the day that like when that happens to you and you go to lift.
Well, yeah, because like I don't like on social media, I don't watch injury videos. If you send me an injury video, I will curse your name. Like I will SWAT you. I'm saying it right now. I don't care. I will SWAT you. Do not send me injury videos. I can't do it. And so every time that scene comes on where he's trying to lift the thing and I can't watch it. I can't. I have to look at my phone during that, and then as soon as I know it's over, I'm like, okay, because
like every time I see a workout video and I see someone locking their knees, I can't, because I'm too scared, because I'll see it. Because I grew up watching professional wrestling, and I've seen a wrestler jump off the top rope, land on both legs, and one leg just went herk. It's like, oh
yeah, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. But that same character, and his name, I'm blanking on his name. I know his last name is Brandyfoot, and I love it. But you know, when the Mystics burn Nori's dad, Nori's dad, when the Mystics burn the Mystics burn everything, and when they're in the little orchard they're in, and he gives that rousing inspirational speech, that again, that's what I expect from Middle Earth. I expect those like really moving moments that like Sam's speech at the end of the Two Towers, you know, things of that nature. And it's not the same caliber as Sam's speech. I'm not saying that, but it's in that vein.
Sam's speech at the end of Two Towers.
The tales that really matter.
Oh yeah, when they're talking, yeah.
That's right. And so that little moment, it's in that vein. It's in that vein, and it's the thing that for me connects all of the Tolkien sinews is the characters that are good just to be good, right? The ones that are honest and polite and courageous. And
But like honestly, like that's not even like at the end of Two Towers. That's not even like the what I feel is the best Sam speech. The best Sam speech is, "I can't carry it for you, but I
oh
can
man,
carry you."
yeah, I'm telling you,
Oh,
and that's this show. It does deliver moments like that. It really
yeah.
does. It does. I'm just trying to think. Like, oh, I mean, come on. Some of the most pure interactions in that show are between Elrond, Disa, and Durin. Like those three characters
I
were
love Disa.
they were absolute magic. They were
Like,
absolute magic.
like I already know what's gonna happen to Durin and Disa and everything, and I'm like, "You greedy little
It,
dwarves," but man, that's some heartfelt
mm,
stuff.
it's every scene that those three shared
Hmm.
was gold. Especially Elrond and Durin, they have such those two actors playing those characters have such a
Hmm.
genuine dynamic, right? Like literally one of my favorite moments, especially the actor who plays Durin, when he's pleading with his father
Hmm.
to save Elrond and save his people. Like that is so well executed and so genuine. Like that's
Yeah,
what I look for. I want these shows to move me. Like
yeah.
hit me where I live. You know what I mean? Because that's just what I expect from that world. And
Oh yeah, and I
it
mean,
delivers.
for me, it was just heartwarming when Durin's being a door. You're coming over to see the kids, and then you're leaving.
Oh yes.
And then he's just
I
he
love the
started
kids
talking to
like
the
the
wife, and then suddenly he's sitting down at dinner.
oh, I know. That was again, every scene they were in is magic, and I love
Hmm.
Durin's kids. You never see them, but
I know.
the scene where they're wearing the giant dwarf heads and they're just knocking each
Hmm.
other around like that. Come on, dude, come on. And Khazad-dûm in this show looks gorgeous.
Yeah, you could kind of see where they took some inspiration from the Foggy Mountain, The Hobbit,
I mean, Erebor, the Lonely
Erebor,
Mountain.
the
Yeah.
Lonely Mountain. Yeah, there. I was remembering something about the Misty Mountain.
Well, yeah, the Misty Mountains is where Khazad-dûm is.
Oh, okay,
Moria. Yeah. Well, it's
that's
not
right.
Moria yet.
But Erebor, um, you can kind of see where they kind of took inspiration. Like they dialed it up on scale for sure.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, Khazad-dûm is way bigger than Erebor.
Is it it's the Dwarven capital, isn't it?
So that I don't know, right? Because
Mm,
the dwarves are split into certain clans and things
true.
like that. So you have dwarves in the Blue Mountains, you have dwarves in the Iron Hills, the Misty Mountains. You have them further south. You might have dwarves in
Yeah.
the White Mountains. So is there like a unified dwarven kingdom? No, because
No.
even in the Hobbit, there's like seven kingdoms, seven dwarven kingdoms. Hence seven rings.
Yeah.
But Khazad-dûm was especially when they found Mithril, they became the wealthiest, especially.
Well, yeah.
And that's another thing that I thought was clever that the writers did. And this is not in canon what they did with Mithril, but Mithril is actually capturing the light of the Silmarils. That's what makes it so
Yeah.
potent,
Yeah,
right? And
because
that's
they
not in
took
canon.
the. Oh, it's not.
No,
I thought
no.
the story that they told about that about Mithril was true, or I thought that was
No.
canon.
No, but that's actually the genius of the writers, though. I'm going to give the writers credit for that because it's such a good concept that it sounded convincing, like it was actually part of the
Like
canon.
that genuinely sounds like an elven and dwarven story that's just been passed down through the ages and eventually gets forgotten.
Right, right. So I mean, it's there. I mean, that's a testament to the writers and how well they did with this show. I mean, every aspect of the kingdoms that you see in this
Mhm.
show not only look and feel like Middle Earth, they're gorgeous. Eregion, where Celebrimbor is, Lindon, where Gilgalad is, Numenor. My
I
goodness,
was gonna say, do we want to talk about Numenor?
I need to talk about Numenor because there's so much. There's so much there. There's so much there. Like, some of my favorite character interactions are with Isildur and Elendil, right? Like
Mhm.
because what I think is magical about this show is with these characters, you get to dive deeper into them, right? Like even in the text, there's not a terrible amount of information about Elendil. There's not.
Which one's Elendil?
He's Isildur's father.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. These two.
Yeah. There's not a terrible amount about him. There's information about Isildur, and if you dig deep enough, you can get a pretty good idea of who he is. But this show gets to explore those things further, right?
Yeah.
It gets to dive deeper into that. Elendil is. I love the way they played he played that character because he's got to walk this tightrope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously what the show establishes with Numenor is they're already not on good terms with the elves, right? And this was a gradual thing. So Elendil literally, his name translates to elf friend, So he's got to walk this fine line. He's obviously loyal to Numenor, and he makes no bones about that. But he has to hide the fact that he doesn't want to sever relationships with the elves. He's one of the faithful, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to come into play season 2. In season 2, you're probably going to get much more of the Kingsmen and the faithful. Like those lines are going to get more clearly drawn. Because in Numenor, you got some dicks in Numenor. And his name is Pharazôn. I love to hate that guy. Cheers to that actor.
He played it well. I
love to hate that guy.
Like that guy.
Oh, if you don't like him now.
No, I know. You've already told me like he ceases power after the queen goes blind or something like that.
So Miriel is another one of those characters. She's a lot like Elendil in this show because she has to walk the tightrope, right?
Mm-hmm.
She can't go against the public opinion, which is obviously being influenced by Pharazôn. Like that scene in the market where he kind of calms everyone down. He's got the people. He's got the people wrapped around his fingers, so he knows how to move those pieces around. But her father, the old man that's slowly dying in the tower, and he's gone mad from looking into the Palantir too long. He is one of the faithful. He's trying to keep the relations with the elves because he understands that if they keep going down this path, Numenor is gonna have a bad day. They're gonna have a bad day, and they did that little teaser with Miriel's
all the
dream.
Numenorians are going to pay $250,000 and take a bath.
Oh God! Call James Cameron. We need someone to rescue them.
To call James Cameron, figure out the buoyancy of Numenor.
Oh my goodness! You give him enough prep time, and he will.
Yeah,
I'm telling. Oh, that was a good one, Brad. That was a good one.
Thank you.
That was a good one. Foreshadowing, folks. But yeah, and that's what I like about the interactions between Miriel and Elendil, because they may not realize it, but they're both in the same boat. They've got to walk this tightrope, because Miriel is obviously aware of the dangers that's coming to Numenor.
Well, she's made aware by the end of it, isn't she?
No, she's known because she's looked into the Palantir.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I remember there was a scene where she looks into it, doesn't she?
Yeah, and then she has a whole scene where she's dreaming about like what she saw, and what she saw in the Palantir was Numenor being wiped off the map.
So those are the orbs. Like, well, they might not be the same exact ones, but those are the orbs from the Lord of the Rings that Saruman has.
Yes, the
or that Saruman communicates through.
Yeah, the Palantiri.
So would do they not just carry messages, or like who's projecting the fall of Numenor through them?
It depends on the stone, right? So some stones will show you certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Some stones were used to communicate. So it kind of depends.
Okay,
right?
I gotcha. So more likely the one on Numenor was lost.
Well, we don't know, because even at this time, if they're sticking to that part of the canon, even Numenor didn't have all of the seeing stones, right? They only had a few of them, and some of them were probably lost when Numenor went under. Because at the time when Numenor sank and they came to Middle Earth, they had the Palantir at Amansul, which that one could only look west, right? And Elendil would go to Amansul and use the Palantir to look west and try to look for Tol Eressëa, which was like the last thing that you could see before you went to the uttermost west. You had a Palantir in Minas Ithil, which became Minas Morgul by the time of the Third Age. You had one in Minas Tirith, but I'm trying to remember what Minas Tirith was before. I think it was Minas Anor. Yeah, Minas Anor, because Minas Tirith was turned. Minas Anor became Minas Tirith. Yeah. Anyway, you had one in Osgiliath, and I think you might have had one up in Arnor. In one, maybe. But yeah, so they didn't have all seven.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, maybe.
Yeah, but obviously, even in the show, this Seeing Stone only shows you that, because even Galadriel was able to
see the future of Numenor.
Yes, even she was able to see it. But the thing is, they don't. All they see is the destruction. They don't see what causes it, and that's obviously the trap they're going to fall into as this show progresses.
Well,
yeah. I mean. And it's interesting because like right now the season 1 deals with like the most impending thing, which is the great tree in Lindon is poisoning. It's dying, right? Which is symbolizing that the elves' power in Middle Earth is waning, because like it's really in the first age that the elves are at their mightiest, right? That's when their power is at its zenith. Because I mean, think about it, man. They're taking on Morgoth, and Morgoth isn't some Maiar, man. This guy is one of the Ainur. He was one of the first beings ever created, right?
Yeah.
He's if the Maiar are angels, the Ainur are like gods. They're gods.
He's the Satan allegory.
Kinda, yeah, he is. He's kind of like the morning star. So the elves are able to take him on, right?
Yeah.
Even what elven king went toe-to-toe with Morgoth and wounded him? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on that one. We'll have to come back to that one later. Anyway, that's not pertinent to what we're actually discussing.
I was about to say.
Yeah, so by this show, their power is starting to wane, right? And they're desperately looking for the solution.
Well, I mean, their power has to start to wane in order for the power of men to start to take rise.
Right.
Because I mean, there can't be two powers like that in Middle Earth that can rise to those degrees.
Yeah, I mean, it was always meant to go that way, right? It's even hinted by like the Third Age. The elves are really, really at the end of their power, and like they're bailing.
But I was gonna say, by the Third Age, they're getting the fuck out.
Yeah, they're bailing. So it's that is obviously like the pressing issue, and that's where Mithril comes in, and Elrond and Celebrimbor. That Celebrimbor, I can't wait for season 2. I think there's going to be a lot more about that character. I mean, one of my favorite Celebrimbor moments is literally, it's an Easter egg, but he's got the hammer of Feanor in his shop.
Mm-hmm.
Like Feanor is the elf that wrought the Silmarils, right? Like Feanor is the guy that started all of the shenanigans of the First Age after Morgoth sacked Valinor and took the Silmarils and killed the trees. So little things like that. And he's a distant relative of Feanor. So season 2 is going to get really interesting, especially because, obviously the reveal of Sauron being Halbrand complicates things for season 2, right? Because
Sauron now knows how to forge rings.
He kinda knows how.
Well, the only thing he missed out on was the adding of Mithril.
Yeah, so he kinda knows how to forge great rings. The issue is he, as Halbrand, can't go back to Eregion because Galadriel's there and she knows, right? And Elrond has his suspicions, right? So
I thought Elrond was pretty convinced by the end of the last episode.
They hint at it because he's got that scroll that Galadriel was hiding in, or she was looking at. So it's
Hellbrand's family tree, the real Hellbrands.
Yeah. So he's kind of got an idea. They don't really confirm that he actually knows, but I mean Galadriel does. And I mean, obviously she doesn't want to say too much. She kind of facilitated the rise of Sauron again, which was such a compelling storyline.
How Sauron works, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, I go back to the whole like oh, they don't know the lore. Like, no, they do. Look at how they wrote Sauron into the show, Halbrand into Sauron, right? It's consistent with the text. It's consistent.
Yeah, he's a shapeshifter.
Because, well, that's obviously the physical thing he's capable of doing,
Well,
but
yeah.
his motivations, right? Because at
Yeah.
the time in the show, at the time you meet Halbrand, he's adrift. He is adrift, right? And that makes sense for Sauron at this time, right? Sauron was not made evil. He wasn't born evil. He was a Maiar, much like Gandalf, much like Radagast the Brown, much like Sauron. He was not born evil. He was a student of Aule, one of the gods. The Aule is the god that actually made the dwarves, right? So Sauron was a student of Aule, and he was corrupted by Morgoth, right? So when Morgoth falls, Sauron was like his if you remember Batman 89, you are my number one guy, right? That was Sauron. So when Morgoth falls, he's basically cast out. And, you know, what I love about what they, especially when he reveals himself to be Sauron, he talks about Morgoth, and he's like, you know, when he was cast out, it was like the hand around my neck came loose, I could breathe, right? Morgoth was obviously not the best boss to work for, right? So at the end of the First Age, you know, Halbrand's adrift. His experiments to craft a power over flesh, which was what Galadriel saw at that fortress in Fordwaith.
Mm-hmm.
Those were an absolute failure. The orcs turned on him. He's cast out. He's defeated, right? And
his boss is gone.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was a bad boss to begin with. So all he's doing this season is he's just trying to get away. He doesn't know what he wants. He just wants to get away, right? Like when they show up on Numenor, what's he gravitate towards?
The blacksmiths.
Yeah, the smithies. That's where he gravitates for, because that's what he knows. He's cool with that, right? Now, it's Galadriel that's kind of poking and prodding him because she thinks he's this king of men or the heir to a throne of men.
She wants him to take action.
Yeah. And like, again, what I loved about how Charlie Vickers played Halbrand is when he's having these moments where he's talking to Galadriel about like all the bad he's done and all this stuff. He's being honest, kinda.
I was about to say, like, if you really break down like some of their one-on-one conversations and everything, it's like if you can just stop and imagine for a minute, like that Sauron was actually like being genuine with everything. It really puts a different twist on like a lot of things.
Yeah, kinda. He's being kinda honest. Right?
Yeah,
like
he can be. He's not being completely honest, but I feel like he was being completely genuine.
Yeah, no. Sauron is a narcissist, like a textbook narcissist, and even when he's letting like these little moments of honesty slip, it's still inherently dishonest because he's not being completely upfront with Galadriel and saying like, "Oh yeah, by the way, sorry about your bro." Like, you know, he's not being completely upfront with her, and then it gets to the point where he's even kind of manipulating situations, which is just something he does, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes much more apparent once Galadriel has, you know, ironically convinced him to, you know, move forward in his life. Don't be shackled by the past. Move forward. That he starts to come up with his own plans. And the thing about Sauron is that he thinks what he's doing is to the good, right?
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't understand the difference between fixing Middle Earth and dominating Middle Earth. He doesn't know the difference. There is no difference.
Not yet.
No, I mean, even when he's giant floating eye, right?
He really, you think at that point he's still so far up his own butt that he thinks he's doing good for Middle Earth?
Yes. That's the thing about Sauron. He was not originally evil, right?
Well, yeah.
He still thinks what he's doing is good, right? Like, again, he doesn't know the difference between saving Middle Earth and dominating it, right? And by the end of Rings of Power, he's fully into that mode of thinking. And this is where the narcissism part comes in, because, you know, you can look at the interplay between him and Galadriel, especially at that scene where you know they're kind of tussling and contesting with each other, and he, you know, says, you know, I will bind you to power and you will bind me to the light. He's still using her. He is still using her. He thinks he's doing it for good. He thinks that he's come up with this plan to finally save Middle Earth, but he is still using people and manipulating people. He's a narcissist. And again, I love the slow progression that Charlie Vickers made with this character. I like the slow progression, and it sets up so many tasty things for season 2, because, you know, there's a rumor that there's actually going to be 2 actors playing Sauron. So Charlie Vickers will be back as Halbrand.
Yeah.
But we might very well be getting Anatar, the giver of gifts. Which would make sense if he has to get Celebrimbor involved in making the 7 and the 9. Going as Anatar might accomplish that, because Anatar is in the form of an elf. He's very fair.
I was about to say he's a very fair elf, right?
Yes. But I just, you know, my only concern with that is, like, I don't want it to come at the cost of Charlie Vickers, because that dude nailed it. He nailed it so completely.
We can always have, like, Charlie Vickers, like Halbrand can just kind of be his form. Like that can be the form that, like, dons the armor and everything. And, like, they can bring in other actors in order to, like, play whatever other form he has to take.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I would like him to stay as Halbrand, especially if he gets taken to Numenor, right? Because he's going back to Numenor. Sauron goes back to Numenor.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a lot tastier if he stayed in that form. Yeah. The other standout for me is Nori and the Stranger.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't think that's Gandalf fighting
as a giant dude who spent most of his younger days just breaking shit and hurting people on accident, I get it.
Yeah. Again, if you don't think that's Gandalf, fight me.
Oh, it has to be. Especially like that last episode, that last scene in the last episode where the air just smells sweeter this way.
Yeah, always follow your nose. It doesn't get more nail on the head than that.
Air down here doesn't smell quite as foul.
But I'm going to go further. I'm going to go further with the connective tissue between the Stranger and Gandalf.
Yeah.
Right? Gandalf was the only Istari, the only wizard that went in for Hobbit lore. Right? He was the only one that saw the value of the hobbits, that saw their potential, that saw their virtue. He was the only one of them. Every other, Radagast was probably pretty cool, but Saruman wrote off the hobbits.
Yeah, right? Radagast would rather deal with animals.
Yeah.
Understandably, I mean, he probably didn't. So.
Yeah. So it's no coincidence that if Gandalf, at least in this adaptation, does arrive in the Second Age, of course he would land among the Harfoots. Of course. Because, I mean, what better springboard to explain Gandalf's affinity for hobbits and his respect and admiration of them than this, right? Than dropping in amongst their ancestors.
And I think, didn't I bring that up when because, like, when we saw that episode of, like, when we first had the Stranger among the Hardfoots, I think I brought up the line of that Saruman said to Gandalf of, like, what you see in those hobbits I'll never know, or something like that.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. And the other thing is that when the Stranger is, you know, this is after he had bested the Mystics and he kind of got a little bit of his senses back and he's kind of a little more to it.
Sure.
Yeah. He has this line, you know, where he's kind of consoling Nori about her fears of stepping off into a larger world. And he says this line about, you know, sometimes that there's a path laid in front of us and all we can do is walk it. Right. I'm paraphrasing heavily.
Yeah.
That makes sense in the context of Gandalf as a character, because Gandalf, his true name is Olorin when he was in Valinor. And when he was chosen to be sent to Middle Earth as one of the Astari, he didn't want to go because he was afraid. He was afraid of Sauron. He was afraid that, you know, he just had fear. And they literally, the Valar, the gods, basically told him, like, that's exactly why you're the best choice, you know, because Gandalf's job is, throughout the Lord of the Rings, is mostly to inspire courage, right? That's why he wears the Ring of Fire, because it helps to inspire courage. And, you know, what better person to inspire courage in others than one who is human enough to feel fear.
Yeah.
So if the stranger isn't Gandalf by the end of this, I'll eat my shoe. Okay. But I don't think I'm going to be tasting leather anytime soon because it's Gandalf.
Once they confirmed Halbrand was Sauron, we were pretty sure that the stranger was Gandalf. It just made sense.
It's got to be. And this is one of those things with adaptations that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Play with it. Like I get it. I know.
I wonder if we're going to get to meet the twins.
The Blue Wizards, yeah, they could. I mean, they could. The Stranger and Nori are going to Rune in season 2, and that's where the Blue Wizards were presumably, because the Blue Wizards. Well, they went to the east. That's all we know. All we know about the Blue Wizards is that there were 2 Blue Wizards and they went to the east. That's it. That's all the information that exists on them. So if the writers do want to play with this, it's open. It's open. Yeah. I personally don't care that the wizards didn't come to Middle Earth until the Third Age. I don't care. Because in this series, this adaptation, it's working. It's working.
Well, and now, okay, just as someone who is, doesn't know any better about this, it was confirmed that they didn't arrive until the Third Age, or was it like one of those things where they did not show themselves until the Third Age?
So according to Tolkien, they did not arrive until the Third Age, because there's even in the Silmarillion, there's a passage where Gandalf actually is brought to the shores of Middle Earth. He gets off a boat and he meets Círdan the shipwright, and that's when Círdan gives him the Ring of Fire, saying, you're probably going to need this, bud. So yeah, that's the canon. But again, it's an adaptation.
There's room for it's an adaptation.
It's not a 1v1 comparison. If it was a 1v1 copy of the text, it would be boring. Okay? Like it's the same thing when people were complaining about the compressed timeline. Of course it's compressed. Like the Second Age takes place over thousands of years. Like, what are your only consistent cast members going to be the elves? And on top of that, like, I hate to break it to you, but there's not a lot of friggin' good stories out of the Second Age. There's really not. There's one about a Númenórean mariner king. There's that. And then there's the Last Alliance. Like, that's it. Like, there's not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot happened in the Second Age.
Well, at least not that we know about. Like, it's
true.
What you can get from the Second Age, the Akallabeth and the Silmarillion, some of the stuff from the Book of Lost Tales, the Unfinished Tales. It's sparse because it was just a history. It's just a history. If they were to do an actual adaptation of the Akallabeth, it would be like a Sir David Attenborough documentary. It wouldn't be a drama.
I'd watch it. If it was Lord of the Rings, I'd watch it.
I mean, of course, I'm a schlut for this. I'll take all of it. But again, I can't stand the purists, man. I can't stand the purists. I really can't. And I really, the lead up to this show and even during the show and even now, the discourse now is shitty. It's awful. It's as bad as the Star Wars fandom. Maybe not as weaponized as the Star Wars fandom is, but it's bad. Like, dude, it's so bad that the cast had therapists on staff to deal with the racist shitbags online.
Oh yeah, that had a problem with there being black dwarves or some shit.
Yeah, in a story where trees talk, apparently a character with melanin is a bridge too far. Like, here's my okay. I'm gonna get on my
hashtag. I'm gonna get on my Tolkien.
I'm gonna get on my fucking soapbox here, and yeah, I just dropped an F-bomb, and I don't fucking care. Here's where I'm gonna get on my soapbox, because you know what? If you get that bent out of shape over a character with melanin in this fucking show, you're an idiot. Okay, you're a racist, and you're an idiot. And all racism is rooted in idiocy, because you know what? When you decided to be a racist, the world got cheated, because instead of you implanting that egg, you should have bounced off your mom's uvula and never bothered us. It's such stupid bullshit. Like, oh, it was meant to be a history of Great Britain. It was meant to be a stand-in for the mythology of the great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Tolkien wanted it to be. It doesn't matter what his influence was or his inspiration was. It doesn't matter. He created a fantasy world where trees talk, dragons talk. There are literal dead men riding fell beasts, and a black elf or a black dwarf pisses you off. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here with that shit. Like, and furthermore, it doesn't matter what Tolkien's intentions were because he's dead.
I was gonna say that. I didn't know if that was taking it too far for you.
No, I'm not. I don't give a shit. He's dead. He's been dead for a long time. Guess what? His son, who was like the steward of his work, he's dead too. And you know why? You know why it doesn't matter what their original intentions were? Because when you create something like that, that becomes so entrenched in the cultural zeitgeist that it never leaves and it becomes part of people's identity, it becomes something that they cherish and they hold very dear. It doesn't belong to the author anymore. Like there's no ownership over it anymore. You've given up ownership. It now belongs to everyone. It belongs to everyone. So if you want to gatekeep, fuck off. Get out. Hit the fucking bricks. Go pound sand. You want to fucking send hate to an actress because she's black and she's in a Tolkien show? Take a long walk off a short cliff. Never procreate. Like I'm not worried that you will. I'm pretty sure that you just look. I'm pretty sure these racist types, if they open up their mouth for like 2.5 seconds, every woman within a 10-mile radius just dries up. I am willing to die on that hill. I'm sorry. Racists piss me off. They really fucking piss me off. Racists and fucking homophobes and transphobes, you fucking piss me off. Like, because you're all idiots. You're all fucking idiots. Like, okay, this is not part of Rings of Power, but I'm on a fucking roll now. You saw that there was a transgender actress cast in The Acolyte. Right?
Yeah.
A day later, all of the YouTube clickbaity grifter types all in unison start saying, yeah, I'm actually hearing rumors that The Acolyte's canceled. Lucasfilm actually really hates it, and it's all Kathleen Kennedy's fault. Like clockwork. Like clockwork, these fucking chuds come out of these smooth-brained, mouth-breathing chuds come out of the woodwork and spew their bullshit everywhere.
I didn't hear that it was because of the trans actress. I thought it was because of the director who they had doing it. Was like making comments about how apparently people wanting her to follow George Lucas's like story, like not story, but like
the showrunner. Yeah, the showrunner.
Yeah, about like wanting George. Like she's made a comment about like wanting George Lucas to wanting her to follow George Lucas's like idea of Star Wars was apparently toxic masculinity or some shit like that, or it was I forget what fucking wording she used.
Like rooted in misogyny?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's her. That's fine. That's her view. That's okay. That's okay. It's not an official statement from Lucasfilm.
Yeah, no.
That's just her
someone's
view.
Opinion.
Exactly. And now it's someone that, happens to work on a Star Wars show and you don't. But it's no coincidence that these things happen, and then all of these little gremlins, these little chaos gremlins of stupidity come out of the woodwork like, it's actually canceled. Like, all of you, like, go pound sand, and the same stuff exists within the Lord of the Rings fandom now. It's still there, and it's just like, and oh my god, I the thing that I can't stand the most is when people try to like proselytize about like what's Tolkien thought and what his views were. It doesn't fucking matter. Like,
you can go dig him up and ask him.
I mean, look, if you want to know what he thought, he wrote a lot of letters, and many of them have been published, right? But like, again, here's the thing. When it comes to Tolkien, he was born in the 19th century and he died in the 20th century. We are now in the 21st century. If you think that his views are going to mesh with a modern understanding of the world, you will be disappointed, right? Now, was he like a racist Shitbag? Probably not. At least not for his time. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, was he unfamiliar with people of color? No. Okay, the dude was born in South Africa and he grew up in colonial Britain. Okay, he would have been surrounded by people of different cultures and ethnicities. Okay, and he was an academic. All right, so he was not exactly. He wasn't like your typical like white is right. Like, I mean, come on. But if you expect his views to align with our modern understanding, come on, be realistic. All right, like, and again, it doesn't matter.
Have you ever seen Django Unchained?
Of course, I've seen Django
Unchained. All I could fucking think of is the fucking group of white dudes in the raid. It's like, has everyone got their hoods on? Man, can't see fucking shit out of this.
Oh yeah. See, I will appreciate any movie that makes the racists look like the idiots they are. I mean, not that they have to try very hard. These shit stains really do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And I just, it was a shame. It was a shame because it's like you're being shitty and you are trying to exclude all of these people from this fandom. And like, you don't realize that when you try to exclude people from a fandom, the fandom dies. Okay. Like, fandoms stay alive because of diversity and because other people find a space to connect and share this stuff. That's how this shit survives. Like, if it was isolated to a certain group of people, the Lord of the Rings would have died out in popularity a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, it is alive now because it has reached that many eyeballs and that many people have connected with it and that many people, it means something to them. So you can try shitting on it all you want. You can target these actors who are just doing their job. You can target people within the fandom that appreciate the representation that matters to them, but you will not stop them from engaging with it. You are ice skating uphill. You're pissing up a rope. Oh, I hate them, Brad. Oh, I hate them so much. Tolerant. Oh, fuck that. I am not tolerant to that shit anymore. I have, just like the billionaires, no sympathy. None. If a racist hit a keyboard too hard and it popped off the keyboard and went directly into his mouth and he choked on it right then, I wouldn't shed a tear. Actually, I kind of want to see that happen now. Anyway, what were we talking about before I went on my tirade?
We were finishing up talking about Rings of Power. We were talking about The Stranger.
Were we?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't have going off like that on my evening bingo card. Sorry.
I mean, there's usually one.
So let's close it out with this. What are you hoping for season 2?
Balrogs.
Oh yeah, you did get a tease. You got a tease of a Balrog.
Yeah, I know, but I want more.
Oh, you will. You
know what I was thinking actually? Since Gandalf killed the Balrog and Sauron was taken out, after the elves left, did they ever think about going back and reopening the Mithril mine?
Probably, because that was the last Balrog. Earth, right? That was the last.
That was the whole significance of Gandalf fighting it and killing it.
Yeah, because it was the last one. So because most of the Balrogs were killed in the War of Wrath.
Yeah,
that one went down to the deep places and hid out. So, yeah. What was your original question? I'm sorry. I
did they ever reopen the Mithril?
Oh yeah, probably.
You think?
Probably. Yeah, probably. I mean, come on, you're gonna rid. There's a reason the Balrog was called Durin's Bane.
Yeah, I know.
We know which Durin we're talking about, and trust me, he's gonna get hungry for that Mithril. But if that thing's gone, then yeah, why wouldn't you go back into Khazad-dûm? I mean, it's.
Well, I know, like there were two things that were like hostile down there. It was all the fucking goblins, and it was the Balrog.
Yeah, well, the goblins, I mean, you're going to dispatch with them.
I was about to
Like
say well, that or they like either die off or scatter after Sauron is
Yeah,
taken out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because it's just you're not gonna leave all that sweet Mithril just sitting there. uh, now, I mean, whether or not we're going to see Durin encounter his Bane in season 2,
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I feel like that would be a bit early.
yeah, I would agree.
Because how long have all those orcs been dead, or all those dwarves been dead by the time they find them in Fellowship?
So in Fellowship, those dwarves were actually from Erebor, and they were led there by Balin and Nori, one of those three. They were actually from Erebor, and they went to reclaim Khazad-dûm because. All right, so the backstory is the war of the dwarves and orcs. Like the orcs and the dwarves had a real bad war in the Third Age. You see a little bit of it in The Hobbit when Thorin is fighting Azog at the steps of Khazad-dûm. So you see a glimpse of that. It was a real bad war. And now after the Battle of Five Armies, a lot of those orcs and goblins came from the Misty Mountains. So they came from Khazad-dûm. So when that army of orcs was wiped out, the impression was like, oh, well, then Khazad-dûm's empty. Why don't we go retake it? It's one of the great dwarven kingdoms. So Balin is the one that led the expedition to Khazad-dûm. So by the time they had found them in Fellowship, they'd been dead for a number of years, because even at the Council of Elrond, Glowing was like, oh, yeah, we haven't heard from Balin in forever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but Khazad-dûm, at the end of the Second Age, it's gonna have a bad time, because they are.
Oh, so Khazad-dûm falls at the end of the Second Age.
Around there, yeah, because Durin does start digging. Well, it's probably going to happen that way in the show. That's probably how it's going to go. Now, whether it's season 2, I would agree it's probably a little early, because they still have to establish the fact that like when Durin becomes king of...
Yeah, I was going to say Durin still has to become king, and then he still has to start mining more mithril.
He has to mine mithril, and he has a really good relationship with Celebrimbor, right? Because the elven smiths of Eregion helped make the doors of Durin that you see in the Fellowship with Ithildine and all that stuff. So they still have to do all that stuff. With season 2, I've seen some leaked set pictures
already.
People fly drones and shit. So there's going to be the war of Sauron and the elves. The elves and Sauron are going to war.
Yeah.
Because the set photos were of Eregion, where Celebrimbor's forge is, just wrecked. Wrecked. So we're probably going to get the forging of the 7 and the 9. And you'll get the war of Sauron and the elves, because the reason that Sauron declares war on the elves, because he wants the 3. He wants to go take the 3. So you're going to see that. I'm really curious about the Stranger in Nori. I think that's probably the one storyline that I'm the most curious about.
Yeah, because I mean, it's the one storyline that, like, it's like you said, the Gandalf isn't supposed to come until like the Third Age. So the fact that they've accelerated that and brought him in so early, you have no idea what he's going to be up to or what he's going to do.
None. And I don't even see. It'd be a really cool thing if he doesn't even go by Gandalf for a while.
Yeah,
because Gandalf is a name that was given to him.
Yeah, because I mean, I know the Hardfoots aren't going to know him as the same thing that like the Hobbits do. Otherwise, how is Gandalf going to explain? Oh yeah, I knew the beginning. I knew the beginning of all your family trees.
Yeah, no. It would be really cool if he actually went by Alorin. If he remembered
his original name.
Alorin. Yeah, because the elves give him the name Mithrandir. The Gandalf is given to him by the name of from the Men of the North. I think it's by the Men of the North and Bree. They call him Gandalf.
Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah. So because he has many names, right? He's got a bunch of names. So that'd be cool. But like,
especially with how it went with like the mystics trying to use that spell to like get him to remember his original life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean that would make sense if he started going by his original name for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting because I'm wondering if if we're gonna get throughout the season a little bit more of like his impressions and his memories and things of that nature.
Starts acting like the Gandalf from Fellowship.
Kind of.
I want to see
I
this
would-
man start playing with fireworks.
I want to see inklings of that. Like I want
Yeah.
to see inklings of that. Like I mean, I want to see a little bit of that, but I also want to see that character progress to that point. Right?
Oh yeah.
Because like it would be ridiculous to think that in this series, that the character of the stranger, as we'll call him for now, has no interactions with the elves or the men or anything like that. I think that they're going to find a way to get to that point.
Yeah.
Because when you're going up against Sauron, who is a Maiar, having one of those Maiar around wouldn't be that bad.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Is like, you mentioned the war between the elves and Sauron. I was kind of thinking, like since they brought Gandalf in or the stranger so early, maybe they might put him in to be to interact with that for a little bit.
Possibly. And we also don't know if he's the only wizard.
That's
We don't
true.
know. We have
Well,
no idea.
Well, what was it? I think you were the one who was talking about it. But when they did the scene where like the meteors were falling from the sky,
Mm-hmm.
like it showed multiple views, and like everyone just assumed that it was the one meteor just from like different points of view. But I think you also said like, what if it's multiple meteors falling in different areas?
Who knows?
So
Who knows? I mean, it would be an interesting subplot to have other wizards pop up. It'd be curious as to what role they play.
I want to see
in the larger
Sauron
story.
just get shit on in his early life.
Oh no, trust me, you're going to see plenty of that. Because what Sauron doesn't understand is
Sauron.
Well, yeah. What Sauron doesn't understand that when Adar the Uruk marshaled all of those orcs and basically helped create Mordor, and then the Númenóreans kind of got their shit rocked. He does not understand what kind of hornet's nest he just kicked over.
Well,
right?
Yeah, it's Numenor.
Yeah, they just sent a small detachment there. That was a small detachment. And they ran through those orcs like a hot knife through butter, right? You pissed off Miriel and you blinded her. She's coming back, bud. And there is every indication that it's going to be Númenor that saves the elves in Eregion, that actually saves them. So that is probably the season is probably going to end with them capturing Sauron, for sure. But it's not going to be a real capture. Sauron's kind of playing into their hands a little bit.
I was say I feel like Sauron's just going to kind of stop in the middle of everything and just be like, I give up.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see Sauron Halbrand in season 2 in the sense that like I want to see him start to do more nefarious stuff and start being a little more Sauron, because now he's fully committed. He's into it now. You see that little glimpse of him at the end of the series when he's walking into Mordor and he's just got.
I was gonna say that has to be probably my favorite end scene of any show that's come out recently, and it's literally because let's face it, the only other one I have is fucking Halo. Yeah. Yes, I'm dropping an F-bomb for that one because he's just quiet and it's just that's it. But like at least with Lord of the Rings, you got this point where Halbrand's walking towards what I'm assuming is Mount Doom.
It is.
And he just turns back, throws up a hood, and keeps walking.
I want to see Sauron do more Sauron stuff.
Yes.
So I'm very, very excited for that.
I want to see what happens with Adar. Because I've got some compassion for Adar. I really do. I feel for him.
Yeah, it makes sense within the story, dude, because like the orcs and the Uruks have always been, just the pawns of Morgoth.
Yeah.
Like, Morgoth would send tens of thousands of them at armies of elves and just lose them, just like lose tens of thousands of orcs and just wouldn't bat an eye. Yeah. So they were cannon fodder, and even Sauron was using them for experiments. So it was an interesting take to have orcs like fight for their agency.
Right.
But
Right.
they're orcs, so they kind of despoil everything, and they want. Well, I mean, I understand the angle of like them wanting to have a home, and it's misplaced sympathy a little bit, but like you get it. But they're
Well,
orcs. All
what
they
I
do
can
is
always
despoil.
what you can always look at it as is, orcs being ruled by Morgoth were
Mhm.
inherently nefarious, greedy, and destructive.
Yeah, it's their nature.
You had orcs that were being kept in line by Adar, and yes, they weren't necessarily doing the most moral of things. They were still killing innocent people and kidnapping them and
Enslaving
forcing them,
them.
enslaving them. But as far as like orc culture goes, they were a bit more diplomatic. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah,
They were
it
more
makes sense
organized.
because the orcs in this show were given a lot more agency
Yes.
than the orcs in the films got, right?
Yeah.
Because the orcs in the films always kind of had that like atypical evil stuff going on.
Yeah.
You're actually meant to be like with the orcs here in this series. You're like, okay, I can kind of understand that they want a home of their own, but to have
Yeah.
their own home, they are enslaving people and killing people and despoiling the land, and their whole thing is to kickstart this plan that Sauron obviously had in place because
Yeah.
they show that to create like this own kind of dark realm and forge this land in a different image. With Adar, how are you going to get him to now work for Sauron, or is he going to at all? Is Sauron just going to find a way?
Is Sauron just going to kind of get rid of him like that? Yeah.
Well, because Sauron needs an army, and right now the orcs don't trust him. The orcs aren't going to just like fall in line and be subservient to him right off the bat. Like he's going to have to work on
Yeah.
that. It'd be really interesting to see how he does that. Another thing, I didn't even.
We might see a bit more of his magic because by the time he's mentioned in The Hobbit, he's the necromancer. He's not known as Sauron or anything like that. He's just the necromancer.
Yep. I mean, it's going to be interesting. We didn't even get a chance to touch on Bronwyn and Arondir. They're going in season 2. They're going to Pelargir, which is like an old Numenorian colony on the coast. That's near Gondor.
Yeah.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about them.
Do you
very
think
much.
we're going to get Helm's Deep?
No. It's thousands of years before the Rohirrim even show up.
Oh, so no. So I mean, I thought Helm's Deep was like ancient dwarven
Numenorian. Numenorian.
Oh, it was Numenorian.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, we're not going to see the battle for Helm's Deep with the Rohirrim or anything. I'm saying we're going to see Helm's Deep like in its use and heyday.
Possibly in later seasons.
Yeah.
In later seasons, maybe because Numenor didn't really start building structures like that until they lost the island of Numenor and they came to Middle Earth. And they might have built it when they were conquering. Because there's going to come a point with Numenor, and I don't know if it's going to be in season 2 or 3, but there's going to come a point when Pharazôn takes over that they start going to Middle Earth and conquering and requesting demanding tribute and stuff like that. It's probably it's actually probably going to be after the War of Sauron and the Elves.
I was going to say it would have to be after the War of Sauron and the Elves because they still have that unfinished business, and then Sauron still has to sink the island and all that.
Right. So it could be. Now, with Bronwyn and Arondir, I don't know what's going to happen in season 2. I'm very curious because Arondir was one of my favorite characters from the show.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude just played that character to perfection. Like to perfection. Ismael Cordova. Brilliant.
Do we feel like her son is going to somehow end up still being a dickbag?
I hope not. Because that kid was so annoying. Like, I mean, I appreciate the turn the kid took in the show. I really do. Especially when after Orodruin erupted and he's with Galadriel. I thought that was brilliant. I appreciate that for him. I hope not. I hope he stays on this path. There's rumors. There's rumors.
Well, but he still has the mark, and I mean that mark could affect some things.
There's speculation I don't see how it fits, but there's speculation that he might become one of the 9. He might become one of the Nazgul. I don't know. It would require a pretty hefty time jump.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe
It'd be
or
an
maybe like
interesting-
an early version of the Nazgul. Because and hear me out.
Mhm.
The sword that he was using was like one that like it like forged itself for the sole purpose of like being shoved into the stone and all that, or like
Yeah, it was
for
a
its
key.
use. Right. What if that sword is what the Nazgul blades are based off of?
Could be.
And like the mark on his wrist is like what gives him like what turns him into like kind of like an early stage of a Nazgul. Almost like what
Could
was
be.
happening to Frodo in Fellowship.
Could be. Who knows? I mean, the doors are wide open.
If he
I mean,
starts turning
these-
pale and his eyes start going weird, they need to stab him in the face.
Yeah. Now, one guy that I think could be a Nazgul could be Waldrig.
Which one's Waldrig?
He was that old guy that was just a person you wanted to hate, like you loved to hate him. The old guy that
The
kept,
one
like,
who
that
betrayed everybody?
that sold everyone out to Adar.
Thought he died.
No, he lived.
I could have sworn he died.
No,
I thought he
lived.
like died in like the final battle.
No, he was the guy that actually turned the key and caused Orodruin to erupt.
That's right.
Yeah. Now he could be a Nazgul. He could be a Nazgul.
Yeah, he could.
I hope not. I hope he dies a horrible, traumatic death in season 2. I hope something awful happens to him. Because fuck that guy. But he could be an interesting candidate. Now the Nazgul were, kings. They were all kings. So we'll see. We'll see. We may not even get Nazgul until like season 3 or something like that. Well, they won't actually be Nazgul because they slowly fade. I was about to say
because it was the 9 kings who received the rings.
Yeah,
that became the Nazgul. But I mean, there's still like the possibility of like some early form of the Nazgul, because like Nazgul aren't. I feel like Nazgul wouldn't be something that just kind of like, oh, I know this spell and this just happens. I feel like the Nazgul were something that like came about the experimentation that Sauron committed. Like that's something that he had to develop.
Well, yeah, it's power over flesh.
Exactly.
So it could be. We have to establish those kings first. But then again, here's the thing. We're also operating under the assumption that season 2 is going to be the same length as season 1. True. Season 1 was 8 episodes. I mean, we have no idea how many episodes. 8.
God.
8 episodes.
They packed a lot into those 8 episodes.
They really did. Now, I can understand for season 1 if you only want to do 8 episodes, right? Because season 1's a risk, right? You don't know what you're working with the first season. You don't know if it's going to be a hit. You don't know if it's going to be received well. It might flop entirely.
True. And you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Right. And if we know anything about production studios now, is if something flops, a whole lot of stuff just stops. And sometimes they just abandon it. Power Rangers. So
I liked it.
Yeah, I loved it. But so maybe season 2 is a little longer because they know they've got a good thing. They know it's working, so they might. I hope they do. I want longer seasons, man. Like give me some 12 episodes, bruh. I mean, like,
ooh.
I'm telling you, because like
four more episodes.
Hey, that's 4 more hours, bro.
There are some TV shows I've been like watching that were like from the early 2000s. There's like 20 something episodes per season.
Yeah. Well, that was also, lower budget. Like this, they're spending.
No, this is like Burn Notice, Suits.
Oh yeah.
White Collar, like those old USA shows.
Yeah, and I don't understand why you couldn't make them longer and spend more money. Bezos, you have more money than a human being can spend in a lifetime. You can afford to do like 12.
He's got Disney. He's got Disney. Fuck you, money.
Like, and look, trust me, I'm still as conflicted as I am about loving the show this much, being attached to that human testicle, Jeff Bezos. Like, oh my God, why couldn't he have been on the sub? Why?
Josh Cates was almost on the sub. but he turned it down from Expedition Unknown. I like that show. I like Josh Gates. He actually turned down, like, he had been on the sub for one of the previous journeys, and he actually turned down going this time because the sub performed poorly.
Yeah. It was a tube, a carbon fiber tube.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a materials physicist on TikTok talking about the tensile strength of carbon fiber is really good. The compression strength of it, not so great.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Not so
even
great.
the movie director that's been talking about it.
James Cameron, yeah.
Yeah, even James Cameron's like, they use like titanium and carbon, and he's like, any other material would have been better.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that has literally been to the deepest point on Earth.
Yeah.
Like, he's been there.
Yeah.
Like, where no human being has ever been before. So he knows what he's talking about. Sometimes James Cameron can be like an arrogant little cuss. But he's also a weirdo that like becomes an expert in stuff when he gets into it. So he does have the authority to speak on things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have listened to him. Anywho, we have been going for an hour and a half.
I know. It's our longest episode since we've been back.
In a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
Well,
So
we had a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, we did. And there was still stuff we didn't get to. That's how much
know.
stuff is in that show. I didn't even get to talk about the statue in Halbrand's cell on Numenor. It was Osse. Another mile.
Who's awesome.
I'm telling you, there's so many Easter eggs in that show. There's so many. But anyway, we need to land this bird because I actually need to.
So wait, was Halbrand looking at that statue like, I fucking know that guy?
Probably. Anywho, we need to land this bird. So we have to do the usual housekeeping, okay? If you like the video, hit like. Give us a like. If you dig this, give us a subscribe. We will be back every other
free.
Saturday.
What are you waiting for?
It doesn't cost you anything, man. Like, we're not making any money off this. We just want validation. Please, just let us know we're doing okay? If you listen to the audio podcast, leave a rate and review, okay? It does help boost the algorithm. It appeases the algorithm gods, and it gets this very adequate program. I mean, an extremely adequate program in more ears. Beyond that, thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, it's always fun.
And we will be back in a couple of weeks, and we'll be talking about Andor.
Oh God, this is the one I'm gonna have to rewatch.
Yeah, me too. But yeah,
Andor was good, but I did not like retain as much of it.
Yeah. We need to go again. So join us, not this coming Saturday, but the following, for our discussion on Andor.
Let's see. As soon as my calendar pulls up,
There's a date somewhere.
The 8th.
The 8th of July.
Yes.
That day. But anyway, until then, we must leave you for the evening. I must retire. Brad, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. And a one, and a two, and a three. Later, bitches!